So here you can have simple users, but this is when you want to have another view according to the role that you have. So the admin can also, for example, manage all the other users. Maybe a user forgot his password, the email doesn't work anymore, so the admin can have this right to view everything. As well as, so for the same app, you can have different views according to their roles. So you usually have multiple roles. It's like, for example, you have a healthcare application and you have the patient, you've also got the doctor, maybe you've got a caregiver. So this whole view will depend on the roles that exist. Such that the flow is according to the token-based web app. So here, when you will want to sign up, in fact, you have a post. So you have the Angular application, and here you have the backend in Spring, for example, or no matter the service. So you consider that you've got a server with a controller, and you have the response. So basically, you have the graphical user interface, the view, and you've got the user registration, such that the command that you will call is in fact a post based on the URL, which is API Authentication To Sign Up. So this is the service that you call. And what you provide here, this is like in Postman. So like in Postman, you will have to sign up and you call the service. So you will have your post command. Okay. You have multiple. For example, like this one. You have a post, and for each and every post to authenticate, for example, I have here, I want a sign in, and I want to add someone with a username as well as a password. What you can also add, you can have another field. So besides, you can add the email, but it will log in according to the username. And as a response to this one, what you will receive is in fact a message. So here in the body, you will receive a message after the backend will check whether it exists or not. So you check whether the username is taken, email is taken. Okay, so if it doesn't, if it's available, then it means that you store the user inside your database, so in MongoDB, for example, in NoSQL, as well as you retrieve an answer. So whether the registration was done successfully or not, maybe the email username already taken. So you return, in fact, a message. And this is your response. Then when you will want to log in, what it will do is, in fact, a post. You will want to authenticate, and you have the sign in according to username and password. And now when I want to authenticate, in fact, it calls the service, but it will also have this token based. So it's a JSON web-based token, JVT, according to a certain string. So you will have it even here. Okay, you will authenticate, and at authentication, you will have here your key, okay, your bearer token. Okay, so you will receive a bearer token like this one, and according to your token, you will be able to have another service, so to retrieve some components. For example, so over here you have the secret. You return your token, it will have a certain type for your user info, and you also have your authorities. So these authorities depend on your role, whether it's an admin, whether it's a user, whether it's a moderator, as well as when you want to access a resource, what you will do, it will request data, but you also have your authorization header. So you need to provide your token. And what it will do firstly, and the backend, it will check the token. Then you will have to get the user information and you authenticate. And after that, you have your response. So according to the resource that you want to access. Well, let's see. In fact, what you have is your application. Inside your application, you've got the roles. So admin, user, moderator. After that, you will also have the part with the views, okay? Such that here you will have your components. In fact, you have your components in order to have your profile, whether you want a login, and inside login you also have the form validation, and also for the register you've got the form validation. And now it depends whether or not the user exists. You can do the login. If you don't have a user account, then you register. And in both cases, what you do have is that you will have a token service, okay, which will be stored in the session of your browser to know that indeed you are the user who accesses a service. And when you authenticate according to your login credentials, what it will do, it will ask an HTTP service, but for it, it also uses, in fact, this token storage service. So whatever resource you call, you will have a token for the user who wants to access it, or else you will not have the permissions to access them. So in fact, it is an authentication interceptor based on an HTTP service, which will call your controller such that you can send requests toward your Spring controller, and as a response, you will have already the answer also as a JSON. When I think about accessing a home page, okay, it will also be linked to a user service. So again, it depends on the token, as well as you will have here several boards. So these boards depend on the role that you have. So associated to your account, you have several roles, whether it's a user, whether it's a moderator and an admin. So you can see them as being different dashboards that are shown according to their roles. And what is in fact shown here, so besides home, according to the role, you will have one of them or multiple of them displayed. And you have the user service, which is available. So in fact, you have three services. You have a service for the token, you have a service for authentication, you have a service according to the user who will access his pages, okay, the home page and also the ones belonging to their role. And all of these, they are in fact components, while you need to access them via a route. Okay. So let's see, what I tested is in Angular 13, in JXRG. So this is the reactive JavaScript 7, as well as Angular CLI, also related to Angular 13, be of the same version. So what you will do is, in fact, to create a brand new project, and you will have this project called Angular Authentication. So you do use routing. And why do you use routing? Well, because I need to access all those resources. Profile, login, it will also validate the form for login and register. Then I have home, board user, board monitor, and admin. And these are services. So this is the one that you use each and every time you create a brand new project. After that, you think like this. Based on the diagram that I've got here. Let's see. Okay, I have this one. You will have to have the whole structure such that you enter your project, and after that, which are the services that you define? You have this NGGS. So you have this NGGS, and for it, you have how many services? Well, I have these three services. So you have a service for what? A service for authentication. So you will have these services, and inside services, you can say that you have authentication. You will have another service for storing each and every token such that each and every user will log in the system. As well as I have another service based on the pages that are displayed according to the roles. So I have my roles, which influence the pages, and this is the part with the login. So you do have a service for a token, for authentication, and also for the pages that are displayed. And all of these, there are services, so this is why you have this S over here. Then you have the part with components. And which are your components? In fact, all of these are your components. Okay, so these are your components. See, these ones are my services. And for those, I will have some routes. So let's see, I have a component for what? I first need to log in. I can register. Then it contains home. I also have my profile. I also have my admin board, moderator board, and whether it's a user board. So as you can see, here you have for all of them a certain component. Okay. And in fact, this form validation is in fact part of what? It doesn't exist here as a component. It's not defined because in fact it's included in the form validation of login as well as that of register. Okay, so you have all these three services and your components, which are empty. And what happens when I add them? In fact, where are they stored? Each time you add them, they are stored inside
Uploading? No, inside module.
app. Yeah, exactly. app.module.ts. You have the import of absolutely all your components. And all these components go here inside declarations. And this is done automatically for you via the command. All right. Okay. And here are exactly what you will use. So you have the browser, you have the routing, you will have forms, as well as the client module. But this one also appears here. So let's see. This is the structure that was created. So let's see. In fact, I have this G of services. So whatever I create, component, service, everything exists under app. So as you can see, you have these services. And which services do I have? Well, I have it for authentication. So this is why I have auth.service.ts. All these specs are for testing, okay, with before each. So this is by default done for you. So I have an authentication service. According to it, I have a token storage, which is this one, as well as I have a user service. Okay. Then I have my components. And where do my components go? Well, also inside app. And I have all these components. I have login. And for each and every component, by default, which are the files that are generated?
The TS, HTML, CSS, and the spec TS.
And also specs, yeah. It depends if you want to include them or else you can neglect. You have the -- skip test. Yeah, but they are created by default. Yeah, you're right. So you have login, you have register, you have home, profile. So they are all in alphabetical order. I have my admin, moderator, and user. And why are they this thing? Because you will have another page. So another HTML will be retrieved based on my user role. All right. Let's see. So this is exactly how it looks like. But you also have an interceptor. So you will have an interceptor. You will have the helper. So for each and every authentication, what happens will be exactly the token. So each and every time I log in and it's successfully done, then it will know exactly which is your token key. So you receive it and you store it. So it's a sort of saying like here, I have a bearer token and I test according to it. So this is how you can access some services according to your token. Okay. So this is just to create your authentication.interceptor TS. Okay. Now, here inside you have, so it will just show you how everything was imported. I have my module.ts, so it's exactly what I said before. You will have the part with the forms, as well as you interact with your HTTP for the client. So what you need to do, you also need to import them, and they are here above. So you have these two lines. By default, you have the ng module for Angular, browser module, and then you also have the app routing
What
by
was
default.
sorry, what was the HTTP client module? I know
So
you
this
just
is
said,
when you
but
have all your clients' requests. So in fact, you have this exchange of data with the controller. So this is when you have your client requests, okay, and you will receive your responses from the controller, from Spring.
thank you.
See, okay. Then you have all the components. These are already done for you. And the components will in fact use the TS file, but you don't provide it with the extension. It already knows. Okay, so it will look at component, and of course it ends with TS. Then what you have here, you've also got your interceptor. So the interceptor is for each and every login, you've got your token, and you also include it, such that you see that the components, all of them come inside declarations. So by default, you have app, and then you have the other components. I have login, okay. I have register, so based on what I entered in the exact order. I have home, I have profile, I have admin board, moderator, and user. So exactly how they were entered here. Then inside my imports, I need to add the Angular packages. So by default is the browser. Then I have my app routing, as well as I need to check the form from Angular. And even these requests, as you can see, you have exactly your calls for your HTTP client, okay, with the backend. What you have here for the providers, in fact, for the providers, you will have your authentication interceptor. So this is where you have the interceptor and you store the token for your current user who got logged in. Okay, the beginning. Then what you also have here is in fact that you take one by one the part with your authentication service. So you will have here your services, and inside my services you did see that in fact you define them for these components that are in the middle. In order to interact with each and every component, you have a certain service. And the service, in fact, this is just for the token and it stores it inside the browser session. For authentication, you also have the HTTP service. So you have your client server, you have a request, and then you get your response, while you also have your user service. So all these services, they exist here. Again, you have your specification file to test it by default. And this is your content. So you have three of them: authentication, token, user, exactly as here. Now, let's see what you have here. Inside, first of all, what you need to do. So before getting the token, before accessing a certain user service, what you need to do is that you need to authenticate. And authenticate means that you will have the part with the login as well as you've got the register. And you think like this: I need first of all to know what I call in the backend. So when I want to log in or to register, I will need exactly my HTTP, this local host. And for getting access to it, you also have the course. So you have the inside Spring, you have the course options such that you can receive requests from your client. Okay. Over here, so this is the part that you have, like here. You have authentication to sign in or to register. And this one is based on a content type, which is JSON. So it's exactly as you pass it here in body, and you have this JSON type. Okay, this is just for doing the post, and you authenticate. Okay. as well as you have this sign up. So when you will want to sign up for a certain service, you can have your username, you have your email, password, and you also have your roles. And inside roles, you can also have multiple roles. Like here, you can be a user, but also a moderator. So you can have both panels. Okay. And now let's see. So you call your authentication API. Everything is of type JSON, what you send. And over here you have what? You have, as you can see, the HTTP client. So as you can see, it is used for your HTTP request. So you have an HTTP request from your client towards the server. So in fact, it's exactly this part. You have your authentication interceptor based on HTTP request response. Okay. And what I do have here is that, first of all, you do the register according to what? You've got the username, you've got an email, a password, and in this way, what you will do, because you want to create it, you will have a post. And the post, which will have after authentication, you have your sign up. So as you can see here comes the sign up, and you have them one by one inside your JSON, such that I send all of them. Okay. And for the login is the same. What I need is the username and password, which will call the sign in. Okay. Tutorials. It was also for signing in. Yeah, this is the one. I do the sign in according to my username and password. And also the body is of type JSON. Okay. And you simply have your post request. This is your authentication. Then what you also have here is after doing the authentication, you need to manage your token. So for your token, in fact, you will have the token key, okay, as well as you will have the user key. So first of all, you've got the constructor, you initialize the service. When you have a sign out, what will mean is in fact that you will clear your session storage. So it means that for your token of your current user will be simply cleared. If you want to save the token, it means that inside it you remove which was the previous token key, and you save the current token that you receive here as being your current token key. So this is in fact for your browser to keep it. Then you have for a certain window, you can get a current token by having the window. Okay, so this is the window of the session. Then you will have the session storage, so while it is available. Okay. And you have the get item also according to the token key. If you want to save the user, what happens means that you need to update what? You update the user key. So you will remove the existing one, the previous one, and then you set the new one as being the one of user. So no matter the type, you will have this JSON.stringify. So this one is also of type JSON. And this is how you can transform your parameter of type any inside a JSON. Then you can also get a user where user depends on user key. So in fact, you have the user, you get the session, and you can simply retrieve it by having the parse for it. And this is, again, when you want to log in to register or when you want to sign out, the browser will keep the session stored. So in fact, I have this one. The token, this token storage service, in fact, keeps inside the browser session storage my two tokens. One is the token key for being authorized, And then I also have my user key. So according to the user which I use, so whatever the username, it will also be stored. Okay,
I have a question for Interceptor. For Interceptor, there is a. Can you go to Interceptor for a second, please?
This one. Okay.
Yeah, that thing there. Can I request control? Because I don't know exactly where it was.
Okay.
So I can't. After a piece of code, there was like HTTP clients after a function, and I was wondering
to request
what was
it.
that. But it wasn't on Interceptor. It seems it was, I don't know, on something else. Yeah,
This one with post.
HTTP options.
So you can add your own. This is the option. You add the header to be in fact the content of type JSON. So this is in fact what you do store inside Postman. See, you have these requests as saying, okay, what I send is of a certain type, whether it's JSON, JavaScript, XML. So these are the options that you set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see. So we had authentication based on token. After that, you also have the part when you have, okay, you've seen the token storage for the session for the user, right? And also you have the part with the user service. On this part with the user service, so this is whether you want to access some public content. So public content would be in fact what? Would be your dashboard. So let's go here. Okay, so as you can see, you have routes and you will, so a client can access what? You can access the home, as so everybody can access the home. And as you can see, it's linked to your user service. This is public. While the part with private is according to the role, such that you as a user, you don't have enough permissions to access the board of a moderator or of the admin. So this is why the others are private and so on. So according to the moderator, you just use your own board, whether the role is a user, whether it's a moderator, whether it's an admin. So as you can see here, this is exactly what you provide. So you are inside user service. Based on my user service, what do I call? In fact, it would be a test. So what I want to do is whether I am from outside, so I'm not logged in, and I want to access some resources, let's say some page, I want to see it whether or not it's publicly available. So what you have here is, in fact, you can get a public content. Get a public content would be this one for home. So you will have the API URL for all, no matter the role you want to access it. Then what you will have for the user board would be the one ending in test of user, and you want to get a response of type text, as well as you do it the same for the moderator and for the admin. So this is when you can test whether or not you can access these resources. Okay. So this is how the test, this user service works like. Right. Let's see. Okay, so you've seen each and every service. So as a recap, when you authenticate, you have the register and the login according to your controller. And this is how it gets saved inside your database in MongoDB, for example. Then you've got the token, such that, so when you want to have the authentication service, what you have as a response, whether you authenticate, you have a token based on what is assigned. So you have a token for accessing it, so this token key, as well as the one for my user key. So based on the role according to which I want to access my application, whether it's a user, moderator, or admin. Then I have my user service according to the page that I can visualize. So whether it's home, whether it's the board of the user, of the moderator, or that of the admin. So this is how you define these services. Then what you will also have is the part with Bootstrap. So it's the same story as before. You go to index. Index is globally available. And what you will have to do is exactly this line of code here with the style sheet with Bootstrap that you can add in this way. And what will load by default will be the app component. Then I think like this. I will have several components. So as a recap, you have your components that are defined here to access your profile, to do the login, to do the register, to access home, board user, moderator, and board admin. So with what do you start firstly out of all these services? Well, first of all, I need to register. No? And this means what? That you will have your HTML page, and inside your HTML page, you will provide your username, email, and password, based on which you will have your authentication service, which will call register according to your observable object. So let's see over here. It will go inside register as before. You have your TypeScript, you have your part with the HTML and the CSS. So let's see first of all. First you have your index. Inside your index, you will have a profile image. And now it's again whether or not it's successful. So if you didn't log in yet, you will have a form, as well as you want to check that it is valid, and you will have a button such that you can submit it. Then you have your username, as well as you will have the part with the email. This should be at the end from what I recall. Yeah, this is the one. So if I log in a bit, let's see, you will have something like this one. So you have username based on a label. You will have your input. This is the one. And your input is connected to what? You link it to the form of username, as well as you make it required, and you can set the length, minimum or maximum length, and it is linked to your username model. Then you can also have alerts. So now maybe you
quick question. Sorry to interrupt. You said that you set it on require, but if you simply put require there, does it automatically go as true? Because from what I know, it's by default is false. Normally, if you want to have it true, it should be required equals true, right?
Exactly. Yeah, but you can also click on sign up, and then whether it's empty, you see that you have this minimum length. So this one will crash.
That's another thing. Yeah. That's another thing. But by the required, I don't think that's enough.
It works if you don't bind it using Angular. Just by writing, it's required.
Okay. Thank you.
But it will still be validated via the two of them, and the same is done for the password. So it's again, it's based on form email. It's again based on the model, as well as you have this one. So you will check whether you have errors in the required, and if not, it will say that the email is required, as well as it must also be valid. Okay. As well as you've got the password, you will have a minimum length, and you also want to check it. Then you also have the part with the sign up, which is your primary button, as well as you may have failure and your sign up will not be able to proceed, such that you will have your error message at the end. And if not, it will appear as being successful. So as you can see, remaining on the same page, this is when it's successful is false. So you have that different than successful for this form. And whether it is, then after clicking on sign up, it will change and you will have just this message displayed. Okay. So the part with the logo from here, it will remain. Okay. What you can also have here, so you will have this sign up failed. And according to your sign up failed, it will simply say which is the reason. So maybe a username is taken, or maybe the email is taken, as well as maybe the password, okay, didn't have 6 characters at least. So it will simply provide you this error that appears here. Okay, so let's see in fact how it does it. Wait, this part with the 60. Okay, you will have firstly for the form, you have the username, you have email and password. And what I check is whether or not it's successful. So by default, I have my HTML page. It is not successful, so it's false. Also, the sign up false, it's by default false, and you have no error message. Then I will have my constructor. So I open the service, the authentication service. And this means that when I have the on submit, such that when I click to send it, okay, such that you have it here, ng on submit, and it also checks whether the form is valid. Okay, what it will do is to check what you have. So the username, email, and password will be taken from this form. So it does the binding between this input. It knows that the first field belongs to username, the second field will belong to form email, as well as you've got the password inside form password. So it does the binding between them. Okay, so you take it from here. Then what you will want to call is your authentication service based on what? Based on username, email, and password. So what it will do, you go to authentication service, which is this one, and I will call the register based on username, email, password. And what it will do the post according to my controller, which will simply have also an HTTP option added, meaning that the content is of type JSON. And now for my register, what I do, I have my subscribe. So I call my controller, and in this way I will have my data as an answer. Then based on it I can visualize it. Whether it was retrieved, it means that it's successful is true. Is sign up failed, it means false or nothing failed. Or not, when I want to subscribe, maybe I will receive an error, like in the case when the username was taken or the email was taken, or maybe the password is too short. So you will have here the error message. Okay, so you will have this error message being the one which is retrieved as a JSON. And it also means that a sign up failed becomes true. So in fact, you will have your message for your error displayed over here. So keep in mind whether your form was submitted. So as you can see, you have here the outcome, whether you have an error because of the password, and those because of a sign up failed, you simply have it here as an error message as an outcome of this function. Okay. So in this way, you do the binding and it is displayed. Okay, this is the part with the register. And also you can associate a CSS. So over here, you can have the CSS for your labels, for your cards, maybe your profile image card, so you can simply modify them according to how you want it to look. All right. The same is done for your login component. So login, it's again the part when you've got a username. It should be at the end, and I want to log in. So this is the part with the login. Okay. So login will have, in fact, what? I have my image, okay, this one with the logo. Then I have my form. And what I need to do, I have my submit button, being this one with the login. And I need to check whether the form is validated. And now I will have my username. And my username is also binded to form.username. So according to this field. Also, I can also have alerts. So maybe it doesn't exist when I want to submit it. So I will have an alert, and you will have a username alert when the form is also submitted. So you have the logical end, and it will say that the username is required, whether you want to log in, as well as you've got the password. And the password is also linked to the form. So you have the form of password. You will have a minimum length, for example, 6 characters, as well as maybe you will have a warning for it. So you will have an error displayed over here, like password might be at least 6 characters, for example. Then you have the login button, as well as all the errors that can appear will simply be displayed underneath. So it will say, why did you receive here the error message? This is the one which is retrieved by your service. So your controller will retrieve your error message. Also at the end, so whether it was a success, so if logged in is successful, it will simply display this message that you logged in as, and now it depends on your role. So whether it's a role user, role admin, or role moderator. Okay, so let's see in fact what you have. When you want to log in, the fields of your form are in fact what? Are username and password. Then by default, you didn't log in. Login failed, didn't fail, so it's false. You don't have any error message, as well as for the time being, you don't have any roles. When you will want to initialize everything, what it does is in fact to get the token. Okay, so you want to check it. Then whether it is the case, you will have this is logged in to be true, as well as for him, you want to get the role, which is assigned. So you get role. So as you can see, you get what? You get all the roles which you've got inside the token survey. So whether it's a user, whether it's a moderator, whether it's an admin. So you know which would be the roles for you. When you have this on submit is linked to your form. So it will be here. This is on submit. For your submit, what you do is in fact that you do the binding. So out of the form, I know that I have username and password. Then for the service, what I do is in fact, I call my authentication service I want to log in, and I have a subscribe. So in fact, I send a request to the controller, and it means that I will want to log in based on my user and password. And as a response, I've got data is everything is all right, meaning that I save the token, access token. I will also save which is the user, as well as login will not fail because everything was successful, depending on the controller. Also, you get logged in, so it becomes true. You will also get the role of your user. So as you did see over here, if you have your poll, okay, with this one, post. Okay, when you want to create the role and you sign up, you have here the roles, user and so on. And you can also have multiple roles at the user and mod, such that you will have the view for both of them. And this is when you get the roles, because depending on the roles, you will have the pages that will be retrieved. So you have this reload page. Okay, so it will forward you, in fact, at this app. So as you can see, you are a user. You can see the home, the dashboard, as well as user. Okay. Then what you will also have maybe is the case when you've got an error, and the error will be simply displayed. Why did your login fail? Okay. And in the end, you will also have to reload the page. So it's basically according to your window location, which belongs to Angular. So this is the part with whole login. Okay, so you got registered, you have your login, you have your HTML, which you've seen. You also have the CSS for it, okay, in order to look as you wanted. Then what you do retrieve is, in fact, the profile. So profile, which exists also as a component, you have it here. And what will be displayed is, in fact, that you have for a certain profile, the user. Then you will have a token. So you have the access token. You can have it with a substring, beginning and end. So this is when you take the first 20 characters, and these are the last 20 characters. Then you have your email as well as the rows, and you can have multiple rows. So this is when it's 98 or something. Okay, this is the one. This is exactly what you see to visualize it. So in fact, you will have the name of your user, which is also the one from here. So this is why moderator appears over here. You have the name, then you have your profile. After that, you have your token with a beginning and end with these dots in the middle. Also, you have your current email. And for this moderator, which was also created here, you have two roles. It's a user and a moderator. So this is why when I go through all of them, I see both. This is why it appears as 27. All right. So here at my profile, this is how it looks like. Okay, you don't have any CSS associated. And what I will do, in fact, is according to what? According to the token that I've got inside my token service, I will retrieve the current user. So if I go here inside token service, as you can see, you get the user based on the token, and this is how you will have each and every detail about the person loaded. So based on the person, you have access to all these fields: current user, username, roles, and email. Okay. As well as you've got your home component. Home component being a simple home page. So let's see, this one is available for all of them. And inside home, what I will want to do is just, I get some public content. And based on the public content, also according to an HTTP request, I receive some data. So at the server side, I will want to display something publicly available. So maybe it's the data of the current day. Okay. And what I have here is, in fact, the content which is retrieved. Okay, so all the content will be the one that I get from here, and I simply display it. And the same is done for the admin and the rest. So let's see, you would have a board for the admin. The board of the admin will have what? Again, another content. And it's the content that I receive also from the backend. So you have a subscribe according to the board that should be shown for the backend. And if it's not available, maybe you don't have the server still running, and you will have an error. So it will display it. Okay, and the same is done for the rest. So you have the board for the moderator, okay, and it will simply say that the border works, for example, because it's in the same way. And the same is for your board for the user, also in the same manner. So you can retrieve here exactly what you want to receive by default, and you can also get element by element as you have it here. So as you see, you will have a content that you store based on the request which you did for the controller. So what you do receive at your controller part, you can add it in a certain paragraph. And for navigating between the pages, you need your app routing. And now my app routing has what? By default, it's ng module for Angular. Then I have my routes and also the components. So they are loaded one by one for register, login, home. I have my profile and then the board, which is for each and every user type. So whether it's a user, whether it's a moderator or the admin. And how do I access them? So whether I have home, it will simply call the home component and it's HTML associated to it along with CSS and TypeScript. Then you have the part with login, register. So this is exactly what you have at the end. So this is the one. As you can see, over here you will have your local host. So it runs on port 8081 and then you have home. When you call home, it will call your home component. Then you can have something like mod. Mod will go here. I have my board moderator component. If I go to board moderator component, you see that you have nothing here, but you have your HTML, and this HTML is displayed, and this is why you have it over here. As well as for user, it's in the same way. I go to user, I go to this component, I don't have anything here, but it will be retrieved from my HTML. So this is why I have this message that the board user works. And for the rest is done in the same manner. I display which is my login component, register component. And when I don't place anything at the end, so if I just write localhost of 8081, it will simply redirect me to path, so this one with home, so the path with home. Okay, we were at 33. Okay, so this is how you link them one by one. And inside the app component, the one that remained, you have the app component TS. So the app component TS is the one which is in fact retrieved by your app route, by this index. Okay, so what I have inside it, you see that it will be the navbar, whether it's the home, whether it's the admin board, whether it's the moderator board, user, as well as you've got the rest for sign up, login based on a certain username and to log out. Then you've also got the router outlet. Okay, so let's see, in fact, this one. This is the case when there's like the end. Okay, here I have my app according to the navbar, and the name for it, so what you see here to the left, authentication app, this is the one that appears. And then you have all this part with home, okay, as well as you will have your refs. So it will be here, this is home, this is publicly available. Then this one, you have an if, so it will be shown just if you are an admin, and it shows admin. I know that it's also over here. Okay, this is for user. All right, this is the admin with the admin board. As you can see, you logged in as an admin and you also have user role. Then you can also have a moderator board, which appears also If you are a moderator, so if you have this permission, as you can see, this is the moderator board, user, whether you are logged in, so just when you are logged in, else you don't have it. So this is when you are not logged in. So as you can see, you have this if. Then you have the part with the nav. If you are not logged in, you see here that you've got the sign up, okay, which appears as well as you have the login. So keep in mind that this is all together. If you are not logged in, these are the ones that appear, such as here. And then if you did get logged in, this is the case when here you logged in. What you will have over here displayed is in fact the profile. So when I click on it, it will lead me to profile, and you place the username over here. So whether it's moderator, before it was admin, and what I have after that is the logout, which we'll call the logout function of your app. And then you have the container. So it's exactly what you add over here according to the routes, which are called. Okay, so let's see, in fact, the TS. The TS is when you have the app route, you have the HTML and CSS related to it, as well as you've got several roles. Then you don't have it logged in. All the admin board, moderator board, they are false. And username will be of type string. So inside the constructor, what you do is to link it towards your token storage. Because when you log in, you just save the token for them. So first of all, at the init, you have the token storage, so you retrieve it. Then, whether you are logged in, you get the user, you get the roles, and you will have this association. You show the admin board, whether the role includes the role admin. You show the moderated board, whether it includes the role moderator. And this .username will be the one that you have it retrieved out of user. So as you can see, you have the service. The service will in fact go and simply it will ask the session, which is in fact the token. Okay. Then when you log out, in fact, you will have a sign out for your storage, and you also reload your location. So for your storage to do the sign out, okay, it will simply clear all the session storage. So in fact, it will clear token and user key. Okay, so these are the ones for your app to know whether or not you display your components. Okay. And then you also have the backend. So the backend in order to authenticate. So this is the main when you want to create a new account, as well as when you want to do the login. And according to it, you will have the permission to access or not a resource. So this is when you have the roles. So whether you do have the admin role or the moderator role, the board will be shown. So in fact, as you have it here, as you can see, you logged in with a certain role and you have it typed in this way. When you have it typed in this way with user role and moderator role, this is why you have this field with moderator board, okay, which appears. Okay. And the same is for the admin. Tuck, tuck, tuck. Okay, so like here, admin and user. And you have
I
the
did not
pages.
notice, I was quite a bit away, but from what you put here, these roles includes role admin or role moderator. Did you add somewhere the I don't know
The roles,
hierarchy?
please.
I mean, if for instance it includes both, did you include the hierarchy so it knows which page to show? Otherwise, if there isn't any, it will first show admin and immediately moderator, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it knows here inside an array, which will be the roles. And they are in fact retrieved from the controller. So
I
in fact,
understand,
when
but
you want to,
for instance, if a certain let's presume that there is a user X, and he has both roles, admin and moderator. How do you put a specific hierarchy so it knows that? I mean, do you have something different, or is it just an if else in the ng on init?
it will be in fact, so you have this one with includes. So whether it includes, it will know that you will have to show it. So in fact, you have
I understood that, but
HTML, yeah.
I understood that, but if it includes both roles.
Like here, I have user or moderator. I can also add admin if I want, and and everything will appear. Yeah, everything will appear here in the nav bar.
Okay.
So you can have two roles, for example, at the same time, and everything is displayed based on this ngIf. Okay, whether it's an admin, whether it's a moderator. Okay. And you see here that for the user, okay, you don't have any other ngIf, so it is displayed because it's like the current user. 37, yeah. Okay, so this is the part when we also have the backend. So for this first part, for the front end, this is where it stops, and then you have the backend such that you can have a small pause. Let's say 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then we return.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.